All right, everybody, welcome back to Map Money. Today we have the opportunity to talk to Alain from SKUR, previously globex, OTCQX at SWISF. Alain, thank you so much for joining us, and give yourself a little bit of an introduction and maybe talk a little bit about what SKUR is all about.
Thank you, Matt. Hi, everyone. You gave me a bit of an upgrade. We're still on the QB. We are going to upgrade to the QX. So secure private data, which used to be closed globex data until this week, is essentially a Swiss-based secure communication and data management company. We have SaaS model solution called SKUR, S-E-K-U-R. We have a solution called SKUR Suite, which is a secure backup, file share, password manager, and email. This is mostly for businesses or individuals who are very much into their privacy and they want to store data on Google Cloud or the Microsoft Cloud, etc. It's $50 a month per user for 100 gig. And then our most popular product is SKUR or SKUR Messenger or SKUR Mail. So SKUR Messenger is a messaging application, consumer price $5 a month, $50 a year. We have a business solution we just launched for $7 a month, $70 a year. Then we just introduced our email only plan, SKUR Mail, which for consumer is $7 for 100 gig. And the business one is $10 because you can basically port your own domain name to us. So the first mailbox is 10, and then the second mailbox per user is only $7. You each get 100 gig per mailbox, which is quite a lot, 100 gigabyte. And then we have the SKUR package, which is a combo. So some people want to have a combo, $10 a month for consumers or $15 for businesses. So that's what we have now. We plan to do in Q3 of next year, Q3, we're going to do SKUR Voice, which is a voice encrypted solution, which will also include the messenger, etc. And then SKUR Pro is our answer to Zoom, because some of you may know, Zoom has been fined several times, hundreds of millions of dollars, because they keep mining the data and selling it to other providers, governments, or big tech companies. So we have a big network of executives and corporates that do not want that, and they're willing to pay the $50 a month to have a fully private, secure conferencing tool. So that's kind of what we do. All our stuff is hosted in Switzerland. We have our own machines, our own servers. We have racks in the top data center in Switzerland in multiple locations. That means that we don't host our solution in a big tech company like AWS, Microsoft Cloud, etc. And that's, besides the privacy and security, legally speaking, it lets us obey Swiss law only and not have to comply with the Cloud Act, which means that, you know, your data could be subpoenaed by a competitor, by somebody who's doing a frivolous lawsuit or anything, and without your knowledge, right? So that's why people use our solution. They know that nobody reads it, nobody data mines it, and to have it subpoenaed, you need to commit a penal crime in Switzerland, which would be hard for most people. I would hope so, and that's why we, you know, this is what we do. I just launched in the US as of late last year in July, starting to sell to consumers, and now we're going to get into the business and B2B.
That's really interesting. I was actually just thinking, I was like, maybe by 3Q, if I end up having you on the channel again, we can be doing this on secure conferencing.
Yeah, I would love to.
But really interesting point there that you said specifically about no cloud and no AWS, and you touched on it a little bit, but maybe for the folks that aren't necessarily understanding of what you mean by data mining and what you mean by the Cloud Act of 2018, maybe some background and context around that might allow some of the retail folks, whether investors or prospective users, understand what you mean by that.
Absolutely. So the Cloud Act of 2018 is essentially the Patriot Act for cloud companies. And the Patriot Act, which was enacted after, unfortunately, 9/11, the tragedy that happened, was basically a law to try to weed out, you know, bad guys in the country and internationally. Some parts of the law, you know, can be interpreted, obviously, and it depends who is the interpreter. So the Cloud Act is kind of similar. The Cloud Act came about when a lot of data from US citizens and companies were stored all over the world, including in China. And this is the US answer to say, listen, you know, you have your territorial laws, you have your data residency laws, but we still need to be able to subpoena because you're using a US infrastructure. But besides Amazon, Microsoft, and Google, you only have Alibaba, which is not US, but that's it. Everybody uses a US infrastructure. So what's happening is if you have a software, if you have an app, it's most likely hosted on AWS. They do a great job. The problem is that you don't have the privacy because the Cloud Act applies. So if we were hosted in Switzerland at, let's say, a big tech provider, that data would not be fully private. I would not be able to guarantee you, Matt, that nobody can subpoena without your knowledge. Whereas if you use our service and it's hosted on our machines, which are in a data center, not ours, but a huge data center, a couple of them, but it's our machine, we don't do third-party hosting. So we can guarantee that we obey by the Swiss data privacy laws. And that's a huge thing. Because, you know, you can be in Switzerland, doesn't mean a thing. If you're using the big tech firm, they have to obey Swiss and US laws. So that's what the Cloud Act is. That's critical to know. Few people know about it. People in the know about it, but it's not something that's very publicized. The other thing is the Swiss data privacy laws are the strictest data privacy laws in the world. They're very different than the financial secrecy laws, which have been abolished retroactively, I think, in 2018 or 2017. So if you have an account in Switzerland, the IRS will know about it because Switzerland will tell the IRS. If I have an account in the US, which I do, they will give that information to the Swiss authority. This is what they call now the exchange of financial information worldwide. Interestingly enough, it was pushed by the US, but the US didn't sign that accord. But about 118 countries, more or less, signed it. So that's what the financial, a lot of people say, yeah, but Switzerland has no more secret banking thing. Well, it has nothing to do with our data privacy laws, which are enshrined in our constitution. And to change that in Switzerland, because we have a referendum system, you would need to have at least a signature of over 100,000 people to want to create a change. That's one thing. And then you need a referendum with a majority. And I can guarantee you, as a Swiss citizen myself, and everybody in Switzerland, nobody in their right mind would give up their privacy. So it's not like when you go like on a Friday obscure before a long weekend, you have a few people in Congress and saying, we're going to ratify this law. And then Monday, everybody comes back from the weekend, or Tuesday actually, because it would be ideally on a long weekend. And then, oops, the law changed. That doesn't work like that in Switzerland. It's fortunate for us, unfortunate for others. It takes a lot to change a law, and definitely privacy is sacred. So that's important to know. Also, our company, everybody in our company is, their DNA is privacy. So by default, the culture of our company, and we only have 15 employees. This is not a company with thousands of people. Everybody believes in our doctrine, which is your information is sacred to yourself. So the philosophy of the company, how we built the software, just everything. It's literally in our DNA of how we do things and what we believe in. We're hardcore libertarians. So that's why we don't data mine you. And then a technical aspect of why we don't data mine you is when we store your data, we basically isolate you from every other user. We have what we call a virtual vault technology, which creates several walls around you, let's just call it that, that it's so encrypted and it takes so much processing power that it's impossible for us to data mine you because it's so tight, right? Nobody does that because it's too expensive. And then the question is, well, how come the other guys don't do it? Is because the other guys, the big tech companies, they basically make way more money selling your data than when you have to pay them 10, 20 bucks a month. That's why you get free application. And sure, businesses pay 15 bucks a month for, you know, one of these, you know, office system and whatever, 20, 30 bucks. But that's not where the companies make money. One of them, obviously, we all use it when we do searches. 96% of their revenue comes from advertising. The other ones, they own everything from, your little PlayStation thing or whatever, all the way to LinkedIn, which is a data mining galore. It's a whole ecosystem. The name of the business today is to data mine you and sell it to a provider. We are guilty of buying sometimes some of that data. We will be buying that data when we want to target people who are more privacy oriented. You see, so that's how the world goes wrong, but we never data mine you. We're very happy with our $5 to $15 a month. We have no debt. We're financially extremely sound, and we're okay with that,
Yeah, I mean, I relate to that very heavily because I'm a big user of Google. Obviously, this is going to go up on a Google product, YouTube, and I utilize that to do direct advertising and things of the like, right? And so that's why YouTube is free. And same thing with Facebook, right? People signed up for what they thought was a free service, but in actuality, they're getting around, what do you like? And they're getting targeted based off of that to be able to have people advertise on their platform and generate revenues that way.
We can't escape that. We use Office, okay? But we don't use their email. So you can escape some of it. For example, when you use communication, that's when you can say, maybe a product like SKUR is best for my email. That's why we launched the business email service. If you go to SKUR.com, you can see consumer and business. You can have your domain. Because I need to use Excel and Word. I search. We have a YouTube account. We just can't do without it. But what you can do sometime, instead of using a Facebook Messenger or a WhatsApp or whatever, or even the other ones that are hosted on big tech, why don't you use Secure Messenger? If you use Secure Messenger, for example, it stays internally. Plus, the other person doesn't need to have the application. We have a thing called Chat by Invite, which will make a big announcement in the next couple of weeks, where you can email someone or text someone. So I can text you, Matt, and say, hey, chat with me. You would click on the link when you get the text, and when you click on the link, you're in Switzerland. It goes through our tunneling system, our Helix system. And that way, I don't know, if your telephone provider cannot see what you're talking about, they can only see the text that Alain texts you a link. That's it. When you click, you and I can chat. When we're done, I can terminate that chat. And then even if you click again, it'll prompt you to buy the product, which is great for us and our shareholders, obviously. But the idea is that to say, hey, we're going to give you a freebie, Matt. Say, I'm a lawyer, let's say, and you're my client. Or I'm a real estate agent. Forget about lawyers. Just simple thing. Everybody transact with realtors, mortgage brokers, email each other, text and chat on WhatsApp. I have seen in my own family transactions of real estate on a WhatsApp group. That's scary because your entire financial information is disclosed to the world. And that's when you become a target again. This is very complex. These hackers are complex. Also, we're the only company that doesn't require your phone number to register to us.
I was going to bring that up. I was going to say, I thought that was so interesting because absolutely everything that you sign up for requires a phone number these days.
And that's because when you do that, they can data mine your phone in a snap, and they can, when you synchronize your contact, essentially now they have your contacts info as well. This is how these free services get propagated from WhatsApp to Signal to anybody else. It's easy. You send a text, hey, sign up to this. And when your friends sign up, you get notified even. So there's zero privacy. That's a big thing. And also the hackers, they're the first one who are more than happy to get into your phone. A week ago, I forgot when, there was a phishing email where if you click in a nutshell, it left a voicemail supposedly on your WhatsApp, but then when you click again and then it's a malware, it's like every week there's something. Every day you hear stories like that. So if you're looking for privacy, and you don't need to be like the prime minister of a country to have that, you're a human being, you have your private life, you deserve some level of privacy. That's where we come in. If you're a business, you have a duty to protect that information of you and your client. So you need security, but you also need that privacy. That's why with our email, with the secure send feature, we can send an email to anyone and they just click on the link and nobody can see that email information. And they can reply using secure reply without being a client. That's a big feature. All businesses have I think a legal duty as well in some sector that they have to protect the identity of their customers, the data, etc. So it's becoming more of a financial regulatory thing than just, okay, I'm going to be a nice person and give you some privacy. So we have all sorts of customers, consumers, businesses, governments.
Now, I think I asked you a little bit before the scenes, specifically why Secure is closed source versus open source. And I thought your answer was absolutely brilliant and aligns 100% with your company MO. So just give some folks some background around why closed source versus open source.
This is where I'm going to get either a lot of hate mail, a lot of praise, because the tech world is very divided between closed and open source. So open source was developed decades ago to counter a monopoly, let's say, from Windows and Microsoft, etc. And, Linux, which we are on a Linux platform, it's a great platform. We don't use Windows platforms. It basically gives you a lot of freedom. But the problem is, back then, it was a self-regulatory system where developers would work on a product, improve it, and also check the work and sometimes check what the company does, right? With your data, etc. Lately it's been that. That's the argument. The problem is that the hackers come in too. They act as white hat, which is in plain lingo means good guys, as opposed to black hat hacker. And they act like they're here to do good. They can look at the entire system, reverse engineer, look at the flaws, and later come back and hack it. Not too long ago, there was a story that came out that Facebook, and I don't know if it's Microsoft or another company, gave away thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of data of their own users to people that paused as developer or some regulatory thing, I forgot. But they literally just handed out the entire data. It was all over the net. That tells you that's pretty scary. That data of yours is just all over the place. And involuntary, hackers can come in and you as a business, involuntary, as a big tech company, just hand out the data. Hackers can do a lot of damage. And I think the usefulness of open source is gone now. 99% of everything is on open source. There's plenty of articles out there that can point that says the weaknesses are increasing and people should try to stop using open source as best as they can. So that's why we went closed source, basically, on our development, for our backup, for everything else. We do use a thing called Roundcube, a plugin for our email, because you don't need to redesign a whole email thing. But that only goes to the API plugin, and that's it. But all the code, all the development, the secure send and everything, it's our entire code. The messenger, it's our entire code. The backup, it's our entire code. Also, besides being closed source, which protects you more, I'm a very fervent believer in that now, because you have too many hackers going to open source now. Also, we don't integrate with anyone. We're the anti-integration company, because when you integrate your solution, it's super easy. You can sign up on LinkedIn with your Google account. How great is that? You don't need to think anymore. Well, we need to get back to critical thinking, and maybe you're going to need several passwords. You need a password manager, because when you integrate with a product and you do APIs and you give your APIs everywhere to everyone to even integrate with you, the problem lies where you have to give away now some of that security.
Yep.
Every time you do an API, you give away some of that secret sauce. And businesses and these apps do a ton of API integration because they want more and more people to develop on their platform, because that's how they grow. Then they have more data and more people and more data to sell.
Mm-hmm. No,
it's
exactly.
like a mushrooming thing. It's like a virus. It's like a colony of things. Suddenly, we are the anti-integration company, and we have been criticized at the beginning, but we stood firm, And now a decade later, we're starting to see that, okay, it was worth it. And people start to understand. I was told by so many people, nobody's going to pay a dime for our email because you have free services. Guess what? Every hour we have people signing up on our web for our product, every hour. And we haven't even pushed the email, the business yet. So closed source, highly recommended. So what we do, for the data transfer, for example, our Helix technology, we use 2048-bit transmission to connect to our server, but the Helix is several layers of encryption wrapped around that, right? So we use a standard, one of the best, and then we do our own layers on top. And that's what gives it the extra protection. We've done demonstration with defense departments of foreign countries where they can look at the key encryption of a 2048 without Helix and then with Helix, and they were blown away. It's pages of codes as opposed to just a couple paragraphs, which is very long for an encryption key already. But we do the extra mile. We do the same for your storage. We have that 256 AES encryption, and then we have the virtual vault where we do multiple layers of encryption. So at rest and at transfer. And that's our secret sauce, and we're not giving it to anyone. We don't need to integrate with anyone. And to be very honest, it was hard to do that. But now that privacy is coming at the front of everybody's mind, now they respect us. They say, okay, these guys never integrated with big tech. And I know that if I pay my $5, $10, $7 a month, if I say I don't data mine you, you can believe it, because there's no interest, and even financially. Sometimes people say, well, how do we know? Well, besides divulging our entire architecture system, I can tell you this. There is no benefit for us to data mine you, because the minute we do that, we are basically commoditizing ourselves. We become like everybody else, and the trillion-dollar companies can crush us. Our uniqueness is the fact that we don't data mine you. And that's our strength. The minute we do, we're just like everybody with another 100 billion in the bank that can crush us. So even financially speaking, it makes no sense. It's suicidal for us to data mine you.
Yeah, and I relate heavily to that, because every single month, or every other month at least, I get an email saying your information has been in a data breach. Your information is on the dark web somewhere, whether it comes from American Express or Discover or some company that I don't even know about that somehow has my data, is now informing me. Apple will have like a laundry list of all the different exposures of all my data, and I'm just like, okay, I have to change my password again. It makes sense. So in that respect, it just makes complete sense. And when you hear the statistic of tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars annually getting completely destroyed from economic loss or people being stolen from, or just all the cybersecurity issues that we've had, coupled with all the geopolitical wars that are going on at the moment, it just is prudent to think about a service like this for exactly what you're providing.
You mentioned the world economy is losing $6 trillion a year in loss of production, and of course loss of data, so financial real loss of productivity due to cyber attacks. $6 trillion as of 2021. The war that's happening all over now, Ukraine, and then it'll be another conflict. They're state-sponsored terrorism, cyber wars. President Biden has rightfully said to the American businesses, take extra precautions and, check your software, patch them, whatever. Whether you like President Biden or not is irrelevant. But the fact that a leader of a country is literally going to tell their business, listen, do everything to tighten the screw a little bit and, plug the leaks, because we are being targeted. That tells you. So the US is the #1 targeted country in the world when it comes to hacking. In Latin America, it's Mexico, where we have a big operation going there too with America Mobile. So yeah, it's important, It's what's your data worth? IBM came with a study, and every business that has a hack suffers up to $7 million of loss. So I think it's worth it to pay you $10 a month. It may not be the end all be all. You still have to use Office 365, but when you communicate, don't use these free email, don't use these free chats. Use a service that you know is not going to data mine you and can protect you. At least keep it private.
No, it's very well said. Well, moving on more towards the business aspect of things and the company versus what we were kind of talking about, which is the products. You did correct me earlier. You have applied to the OTCQX and are looking for sponsors for Nasdaq Uplisting. I know you were in New York last month. If you want to give us a little bit of an update as to how that's going for the OTCQX.
Sure. So we have an excellent relationship with OTC. They're really amazing people. We were qualified fully. Asset, that's cash and asset, operational history, minimum 2 years, etc. Everything was great. And then in March, the market crashed so heavily that our stock price fell below the 25 cents US mark, which is a minimum bid required to enter OTCQX, among with the millions of assets you need, etc. So we believe that, you know, once we're above 25 for a few weeks, then we'll be uplisted. We even prepaid. We had an invoice. We had a press release they sent us. Everything was literally, and it's so unfortunate. I was in New York when this happened, and I got an email. They're like, well, you know, there's a lot of companies in that predicament, apparently. But, you know, we'll get there. The stock today went up to 26 something, traded just under 25. It's making its pace. You know, we have good things coming. So I'm very optimistic that we're going to crush that 25 cents bar and do that automatic uplisting. As far as the Nasdaq, of course, I can't say a whole lot, but all I can say is, yes, I was in New York. I did meet with some investment bank. We did receive multiple offers. We have selected, yeah, I was, and I got to tell you, so we have a good business, right? We're not, by no means, we're no Apple or Amazon, obviously, but, you know, we have a good business. Our sales are increasing. It's recurring revenue. The topic is front topic now, privacy, data mining, big tech, hacking, cybersecurity. So that's good. We have no debt and a lot of cash in the bank. And they all told us two things. First of all, they're amazed that there was no convertible or debt. That's a big thing. It's not a terrible thing, but not having it is already very good. And a lot of companies come and they really need the cash, whereas in our situation, we're doing good. We have the cash in the bank. So we had a half a dozen offer, which is a lot in a week period, and we selected one investment bank. That doesn't mean that we will be accepted by Nasdaq or have an SEC clearance. I want to reiterate that. These are now efforts for us to try to get uplisted to Nasdaq, and we do have a sponsor now. We engaged a consulting company as well to help us. We won't do a press release because the press release is if and when we get to Nasdaq. You typically do it 3 days before, where you announce everything, how much, what, etc. You know, the rest. So now we have started that process. That's all I can say. And until it's approved, there's no press release to be had, because you can engage as many people as you want, but you really need to be on the thing approval. And then usually when you get the approval, they have these SEC dockets or whatever they call it. Somebody can snoop around and see that we have a filing in place. So it's not going to be like, you know, some kind of secret of World War II or anything, but you know, it's not the Enigma machine here, but basically it'll be eventually public info. So that's exciting for us, because once we get there, if we get to Nasdaq, it does come with a lot of funding, which will basically help us take that proof of concept that we have today to a very high growth. We have 6 million US in the bank, no debt. We will be operationally profitable by the end of the year. Operationally, meaning if you take out the marketing expense, we should have enough subscriber to make us profitable every month. Some companies, they acquire companies for users, and it's called an asset. and some companies spend money on marketing and it's called a loss. But the result is we acquire customer. So bookkeeping wise, it may look different, but we're going to spend a lot of direct marketing, direct hitting, targeting. We have been reducing our general branding expenses. Somebody can look at our financials. We spent a ton of money on our general branding. That's coming down to a halt as of July, and we're going to keep it at minimal. And then the rest is purely targeting for customer acquisition. We're very excited about that. Yeah, so it's good things to come. You know, we're doing our nice and steady growth.
So I think you touched on it a little bit there, but you said with the uplist in Nasdaq, which I'm hopeful for you guys, that'll obviously come with some funding. And I did do some research. The gross margins for the company are absolutely phenomenal. Is the use of the funding going to go towards that acquisition of further customer base, like you had mentioned? Because you did kind of mention you're going to start trying to get some of the general marketing kind of down. Is that where the money's going to go? Is to acquire new?
Yes, that's exactly it. So the margins are pretty good. I mean, our messenger, for example, that we charge $5, and we have a coupon for some of our YouTuber followers and all that. Basically, you get at least, you know, $3, $4, $5 a month. The cost is pennies per month, so the margin is pretty high. Our email is where the margin is the lowest, but still, it cost us about $2 a year per customer, and we charge $7 minimum per month.
Yeah.
So that's a good margin. We just spent about $700,000 shipping machines to Switzerland. By May, we're going to turn everything on, full on, and we can have, you know, a couple million people on Messenger and a few 100,000 people on the email, at least 100,000, and then you spend another 200 grand to have another 200,000 people. So the margins are quite big, because 200,000 customer gets you 1.4 million per month, and you spend 200 grand in machine every 2 years. So the margins are like 90% plus. Yeah. So what we're going to do, we spend a lot of money in what we call general branding. We had billboards everywhere electronic. We're going to keep our billboard on the Nasdaq building. I recommend everybody to look during market hours. To the right of the little circle, well, the big circle building, there's a horizontal panel, 96 feet wide. Every 3-4 minutes, our ad runs, a 15-second ad. We have booked that until the end of 2025. And we also have a TV show called SKUR Privacy Security segment that runs every Sunday on Newsmax. And usually it reruns again on Tuesday and Monday night on Fox Business. Plus, we're on New to the Street, which is a program for microcap companies. I'm interviewed by Jane King every week. We discuss a bit about hacking, but a lot about the company. The SKUR segment is basically mostly about the hack of the week. And I'm just starting now something new with somebody named Dick Morris, a gentleman that was basically the architect of the campaign for Bill Clinton and his re-election. Amazing strategist, you know, politician excellence. I mean, just an amazing brain. And now he moved a little bit more to the center right. So he has his show every week. And we're going to talk about, again, events of the week, and also cybersecurity and privacy, big topics. So that should start around mid-May. It's going to be one show a week. He has about 300,000 followers on TV and YouTube. So that's our branding. And then most of the money is going to go direct marketing. So YouTube influencers, digital marketing, email marketing. We are now looking at several solutions and companies to decide which one we're going to do. So that's whether we have the money from the Nasdaq or not, that's what we're doing. With the Nasdaq money, we could probably acquire, assuming at the end of the year, let's say we get clearance and we get our funding, that's a huge assumption again. Within 2 years, we can probably get 200,000 customers with a good amount of money. You know, but even if you get just 100,000 people, that's about $12–15 million a year. Costs you $1 million to run the company. So you're making 14 million EBITDA at least. Not to mention some of our products are going to be higher than $10, right? Because our ARPU, average revenue per user, is increasing. So on average, it'll be $15 US per month per user. We can make close to $20 million a year with 100,000 people. And then every year it would increase. And it's not so much you pay X and you get Y. When you have that kind of funding, you have press coverage, you have other things that you can leverage, you have TV appearances, and your audience broadens. So if it takes you X amount of time to get 100,000 people, if they're happy, they're going to tell at least one person, right? Yeah. So then 200,000. So PE ratios of tech companies are in the high double digit, even in today's market. If we get a decent size funding, we would end up with close to 200 million shares fully diluted. But if you make 50 million a year, that's 20 cents plus a share. That's a nice EBITDA, I would say. That will be 2-3 years down the road. Market cap will be, of course, much higher than today. But if we don't get that, and if we run with just the money that we have, plus some warrants expiring next year, we should approach those levels, but it may take an extra couple years. Yeah. So what's important to know is that because we have no debt and 6 million in the bank, US, about 7 point something Canadian, it's important to know that if you look at the financial, what we spend before is not reflective of what we're going to do in the future. We're going to stretch that money until we're profitable, because we never count our money if it's not in the bank. That's a very Swiss thing to do. If it's not in your bank account, it doesn't exist. You only count the shillings that you got in your bank account. And that's how we do it. And we can monitor expenses elastically. We can do what we want. I mean, we pretty much know at this rate, by the end of the year, we're going to be in a position that we can be operationally profitable. Then the bonus comes, the business. There's 30 million small businesses in the US alone. We're going to target at least 10% of them. Each business has at least 2-3 people. So, you know, the math is pretty simple. We haven't talked about the emerging market, if I may. We have a huge deal with America Mobile. They're starting to sell our SKUR Messenger in Mexico. We're launching Colombia in May. We have another distributor for Colombia, Panama, Peru, and Chile. It's a cybersecurity reseller. They love the Messenger. See, the government entities, whether you're a city or the army, they use WhatsApp. I mean, I know a lot of Canadians, and they tell me they use WhatsApp in the reserves and the Navy. So in the foreign countries, at least, they seem to be a little bit more aware and more paranoid about privacy. And that's where they see the SKUR Messenger as the great option. So the way we sell to government entities is through these distributors that have the decades-long relationship. Because if I go today and I want to sell, let's say, to the Canadian Force, it's like, good luck. We need to wait for the next century for this to happen, because I have zero connection. You need to climb so many ladders, and you have the big tech that pretty much own everything. Whereas in the emerging markets, they're getting more and more suspicious of the big tech data mining. And that's a plus for us. We also have a deal with a telecom in Sri Lanka called Dialog Axiata. Axiata is a huge group based in Malaysia. And I think if it's not this year, because economically there's a lot going on in that country, unfortunately, I think by next year, you know, when you have the biggest telecom selling your product, eventually it grows. But Latin America is the backyard here, and they're already selling the solutions, and they love it. So I think that's going to be a great top line revenue for us that we never counted on. So yeah, I mean, we have today, and that'll be the last of the numbers kind of, we have today over 3,500 recurring revenue customer. Now, when we count recurring revenue customer, they have been at least 45 days in our billing system. We have had more than 5,500 paid up customer, but they haven't been in the billing cycle enough for us to feel, okay, they've been there 2 months, they're not leaving now. Once we get to 6,000 people, 7,000 people, we can say, okay, we're going to be profitable now. So we're adding a few hundred every month. After the summer, we're going to go much more aggressively to the business tactic. We also signed an agreement, which is public news, with Ingram Micro Cloud, which is the largest distributor of hardware and software in the world. Ingram Micro Cloud, with a company in Toronto called Partners Stack. They're going to basically, they have a platform that builds your affiliate marketing, your reseller referral program. So anybody now can go, let's say in August, September, they can go to secure.com, register as a referral partner or a reseller, and the whole billing system is automated. So we're going to target hundreds of managed service providers. We know where to get them, and we know which ones are more in states in the US that are more privacy sensitive, more libertarian, maybe more conservative. Not necessarily, but that's kind of the low-hanging fruit. And we're going to go to those and say, hey, if you want to sell to your customer an email that's not going to be data mined, here, make 15% while you're doing it. So we're pretty excited.
That's I think the thing that's most evident is people's eyes are truly starting to open up to this, and I've seen folks move towards something like what you were providing in different areas as well. And I think more and more people are starting to recognize, with the hacks that are happening, with the breaches that are happening, something like this is necessary. And a lot also with some of the Congress hearings and talking to people like Facebook and truly getting out there what exactly happens behind the scenes. Obviously, these are massively profitable organizations, but mostly for the wrong reasons, based off the fact that they're mostly selling the data to advertisers and all the like. So I think you're in the front of something that is a huge move that I've seen started to grow and have a lot of momentum over the past year, but your decade of work is now actually starting to kind of pay off. And so really excited to see what SWISF on the OTCQB, which hopefully will be the QX here soon enough, will have in store for us going forward. So any last words, Alain, before we sign off?
First of all, thanks for watching. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can go at SKUR Private, SEKUR PRIVATE. Go to securprivatedata.com, to our website. We have an analyst report. We had an initial analyst FRC research, great report because it compares the competition, the market, etc. Great report to download and read. If you're looking for an investment in a growing market, cybersecurity is, you can't do better than that when it comes to tech. It's growing, unfortunately for most people, fortunately for some, obviously, who are providing services like what we are. There is a market out there. It's a close to $500 billion market. And I would recommend that to take a look at our company. And if you want to invest in that kind of company, of course, do your due diligence, but we definitely, with management owning 30+% of the company, that should give you an idea of how much we believe in our own business. And that's another thing you can look at, insider ownership. It's over 30% in our company, so that's massive. So that's it. That's and if you want to buy SKUR, I'll give you a promo code. You go to secure.com, SEKUR.com, put promo code SEKUR15, so SEKUR15, you get 15% off, and at least you'll benefit from some privacy, and that's important. Thanks a lot.
Important. No, much appreciated. And I'm looking forward to hopefully having you on in the coming months, and hopefully in Q3 having you on with Secure Video.
SKUR Pro, exactly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks everyone for watching.